Welcome everybody to Greenomix World live webinar today. Uh, Thank you for participating today. And today we are having Dr. Roman and Francisco, Dr. Jyoti Roy, and Mr. Vinay for this wonderful session on asset optimization and its strategy. So the whole session will be today moderated by Dr. Roman and welcome all the esteemed speakers to the panel.
Good morning, everyone. If you are in Europe or in Africa, good afternoon. If you're in India, and good day to you wherever you are on the planet. Thank you to the audience for for accepting and participating in these very unusual circumstances. Here in the UK, we have been in lockdown for almost 3 months now. And today is actually a very special day, at least for me, as it is the first time in about, 12 weeks that I'm actually wearing an ironed shirt and look somehow presentable, despite that, barbers are still closed. Anyway, my name is Dr. Romain Elser. I'm a project director at Green & Co. And I will be your host today. But before I introduce the panel, I would like to thank Greenomix and Ashish for allowing this webinar to happen.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so our panel today comes from very different backgrounds, both from an industry perspective and actual physical location. So please welcome Mr. Francesco Girardi, who is a Senior Director of Bluefield UK. So Francesco, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of introduction.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Roman. Thank you very much for inviting me to join this webinar. And I'm Francesco Girardi. I'm a Senior Director for Bluefield Partners and Chairman of Bluefield Services and Bluefield Operations. So I joined the Bluefield in 2013, and Bluefield is an investment and advisor and asset manager. It's a group which has been mainly active in UK, but now expanding into Europe.
Thank you, Francesco. Okay. Then I would like to introduce Mr. Vinay Vyas, who is Vice President, Head of Business Development and Engineering at Acme, India. Vinay, hi, good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, good day, everyone. And thank you very much for inviting us in this webinar. And so can you put up the slide of Acme here, or will be? Yeah. Yeah, so I'm in solar PV industry from last 10 years and being involved in more than 5 gigawatt of projects across globe. I've done projects in Japan, Australia, Southeast Asia, and Africa. And presently I'm working with Acme Group. Can you come to the next slide? Yeah, so Acme journey of 14 years, we can see that in 2004, we launched our patented telecom product, which is PIU and PCN and green shelters, and significantly reduced the operation cost of telecom tower. And we were the pioneer in this technology and leading operations in telecom towers. Later in 2007, we were largest supplier of passive infrastructure products, and we expanded in Africa. In 2010, we entered solar business, and we did our first solar project of 15 megawatt. In 2014, we entered into storage battery projects, and we did a couple of projects and activity in lithium-ion battery. In 2017, we had a charging and swiping infrastructure for India's first massive mobility project in Nagpur. Further, in 2018, we were the largest solar developer in India, and based on the public information we have, we were third largest solar asset owner globally. Yeah, so can we move to next? Yeah, so an overview about Acme Solar. Uh, I can say that Acme Solar uh, is globally third largest asset owner with a portfolio of 5.5 gigawatt and operational capacity of around 2.9 gigawatt. The company's installed capacity has grown at a CAR of 100% since 2018. And Acme Solar Holding is part of Acme Group that was established in 2003 by Mr. Manoj Upadhyay ji, an innovator, technologist having 24-year experience of successfully scaling up business in field of energy, telecom, and technology space. Yeah, I can move to next slide. Yeah, so you can see that Acme has presence in all across India. Almost all the states we have done the projects with a portfolio of 5.5 gigawatts. And we have end-to-end experience, right from project development to design to engineering to procurement, construction, and now we are managing all this portfolio. We have running projects of around 59, and we are managing all in-house from our centralized monitoring station. Yeah, we move to next slide. So, coming from a technology background, Acme has in-house one of the best in class solar module testing lab. The first solar power developer to have full-fledged solar lab to its own R&D. Acme Solar Testing Lab is NABL accredited lab for testing of crystalline silicon modules, and it is as per IEC 61215. Yeah, we move to next slide. And having projects across India, we have well diversified PPA, and these PPA are with very high rating end customer. 62% of our total portfolio is with high rated central government agency, and which makes it highly bankable and profit making. Yeah, so we move to the next slide, where we see the core strength and positioning of Acme Solar. With total 5.5 gigawatt and largest solar developer and in-house EPC and O&M capabilities, we have executed a fastest projects in India. Our 200 megawatt Badla project was commissioned in 6 months. All the bids, all the reverse auction where we have participated, we have more than 85% of success rate in achieving and being the lowest bidder in the competitive bidding. And this is how we have achieved by optimizing our project and with higher yield optimization, with record generation technology in all our plants. And we have ability to innovate and implement things for solar projects. Now we go to the next slide, which gives and we show how Acme Solar has rise. In 2018, the biggest winner in solar auction. You can see we have around 16% of the share in all the bid which were there. And we were the lowest in the reverse auction. So in 2018, we were the largest bidder in the auction. Now we come to the next slide, which talks about all the awards which we have received in recent years. We were the best project developer in utility scale projects. We are the best utility scale company award winner, ACME BEGS and CII Performance Excellence Award. So this is a list of awards and acknowledgement which we have received throughout our operations in the industry. So that's a brief about ACME Solar, and in later in this webinar, we'll present how we are managing our assets and how we are one of the top asset owners in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vinay. Very impressive. If Ashish, could we go back to Bluefield's presentation, please? Thank you. Francisco, would you mind giving us a short introduction of Bluefield as well?
Hello, good morning, everyone. Yes, so very quick introduction and overview about the Bluefield Group. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, Bluefield is an integrated investment and asset manager covering the entire value chain of the solar PV, in particular technology and investment. So the group is made by three main companies: Bluefield Partners, based in London, which is the investment and financing arm of the Bluefield Group; Bluefield Services, which is our technical asset management unit and engineering service provider; and then Bluefield Operation, which is our O&M branch. So as I mentioned earlier, I joined the Bluefield in 2013 as member of Bluefield Partners LLP, and subsequently have established both Bluefield Services and Bluefield Operations, which are based in Bristol, and are the two companies I'm the chairman of. So overall, the team has quite a broad experience and huge experience in investment in energy and infrastructure assets. So overall, over 22 billion of cumulative experience across the board, which have meant for us to build, so to invest overall in excess of 20 gigawatt of capacity in for a cumulative figure, including transaction development of EPC and O&M. So across the board, the team is made by a number of professionals which have been very much involved in all different stages of M&A and project acquisition. We have closed about under 45 deals since the start. And at the moment, we have an installed capacity of circa 500 megawatt of assets, which we have fully transacted, as well as we manage and operate internally. So our experience so far was focused in the UK, as I was saying at the beginning, but now we are expanding in Europe, where we had our first projects acquired in Italy, and first also investment done in Netherlands, which is a project which is quite small, 6 megawatt, which was connected this month to the grid. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, Bluefield Partners is the investment, London-based investment branch of the company. Was founded by three founding partners, and then we have been the board, the senior member of the teams are coming from different experience, from investment, development, project development, asset management and operation, EPC, as well as M&A, which is the majority of our expertise. So we were the first launching a permanent capital vehicle listed at the London Stock Exchange in July 2013, which is named the Bluefield Solar Income Fund. Bluefield Solar Income Fund has been named and awarded 2 consecutive years in a row as the best performing renewable energy fund listed at the London Stock Exchange in the UK. As I will explain later, this is a great achievement, of course, thanks to the professionalism of the staff, as well as to the rigorous M&A process and quality assurance process that we have implemented across the board. Next slide, please. So this slide is a summary of Bluefield Services and Bluefield Operation Company. So the senior member of the teams are coming from the sector anyway. They got experience in operation and maintenance, as well as asset management and of assets across Europe. So as I mentioned, I've established this company in 2015, and ideally, while the Bluefield operation was established 2 years later. The initial idea was to insource so those 2 part of core activities, core in terms of essential to ensure that we are able as investment advisor to meet shareholder expectations and above all investor returns. So that's why we fought with the partners that it was crucial for us to expand a bit beyond the traditional investment focus business to include some more hands-on activities. So that's why we are now established as a global operator, which cover, as I mentioned at the beginning, all the value chain of the solar PV investment.
Thank you very much, Francesco. Very interesting and very thorough presentation. Our last panelist that I would like to introduce is Dr. Jyoti Roy, who is founder and director of Greenenco UK. Jyoti, would you like to introduce yourself briefly? And Ashish, could you set up the slides for Greenenco as well, please?
Thank you, Roman, and thank you everyone who is joining this event. I wish all well to all of you. It's a very difficult time for all of us, and in our lifetime, I guess, across the globe. At least in my lifetime, not seen that, and I'm sure there'll be many who can share the same experience with me. In terms of Greenenco, we are coming from a different background compared to Bluefield and Acme. We are a technical advisor or an advisory firm, mainly working towards maximizing asset value of solar PV and energy storage projects, working with some institutional funds, some developers, and some London Stock Exchange listed funds. Next slide, please. So Greenenco has different service verticals. Asset performance management. I think one of the core theme of this particular event is this particular one. We also do engineering and technical advisory services like owners engineering, lenders engineering type of work. Though I can see that there's some issues there in the slide. We can't see the whole list here. But what we also do is design optimization, which is becoming quite prominent these days when we are moving across the globe, moving into more of subsidy-free space where optimization from the beginning is quite interesting. We also have done a project with energy storage projects, and because our team is coming from a scientific background and innovation is our backbone, if you like. So we work towards different innovative solutions. Next one, please. Some of our key strengths, it sounds like that 5 gigawatt is becoming a theme for this particular event today. Within our team, we have done over 5 gigawatt of ground mount or rooftop project at different geographics. We not only just coming from a technical background, but we have been involved into a large amount of transactions, whether that's M&A, secondary market, or new build investment. We also comes with other technical background, means we have been involved. That's myself preparing some international standards, IEC standard committee, and also some UK-based standard. One of the other things are in-house developed artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, which is to improve the asset generation. Is being implemented in a portfolio of 300 megawatt in India, and a maximum generation gain of 16% has been observed. Next one, please. In terms of the technology landscape, we mainly work into solar and on all form of solar, whether it's ground mount or rooftop or floating solar. Energy storage and hybrid, meaning whether it's energy storage with solar or wind. We also do energy efficiency and management, and we have done a innovation project on EV charging infrastructure projects. Next one, please. In terms of the life cycle of all solar PV projects, we see ourselves moved with 360-degree approach. So we start with pre-feasibility or at the tender phase. We work towards project development, yield assessment, engineering, design optimization, project management, and some procurement advisory services. Construction audit, that includes health and safety of the site operation and towards asset optimization. Next one, please. So this is our footprint in terms of the number of projects that we have done in last 2.5 years. We have been so thankful to the list of clients that we worked with, achieving 2 gigawatt of due diligence work in last 2 years' time. So that's effectively us, Gnerenco. Thank you very much, Roman.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jyoti. Thanks to all the panelists. So in today's webinar, we will be discussing optimization and optimization strategies for solar PV plants. And because we want this webinar to be as interactive as possible, I would like to remind the audience to write down your questions in the chat box, where at the end of the webinar we will have a Q&A session. So please do not hesitate to write your questions. Right, so let's move on. I wanted to make a short introduction before this next session we're going to have. In the last about 15 years or so, the solar industry has grown exponentially, as you know. Several gigawatts of projects have been built in the hope for the asset owners to consolidate and aggregate large portfolios. So I would like to ask each panelist, what are your views on asset optimization, specifically for your operational assets? So Francesco, would you mind answering? So what are your views regarding the importance of asset optimization? Francesco? I think you are muted, Francesco. Ashish, can you please?
Okay,
yes.
Sorry. Thanks, Roman. So I think that asset performance optimization is essential for this kind of investment in the solar industry. So we have seen that the total cost, installed cost, has dropped significantly over the past 10 years, from circa $5,000 per kilowatt in 2010, down to circa $970 in 2020. So this is circa 80% price drop. But what happened to the quality of the installation? Quality of installation has been a great challenge because the industry when started was not as mature as it is today, and many of the project development activities and construction being based on a subsidized market, they wouldn't require a lot of effort to put on quality assurance. I think that a second important statement for me today is that quality is definitely a wide concept. Quality covers the whole system. Usually, when we talk about quality, we are focused on talking about the quality of installation, quality of the procurement, quality of engineering. But that's not it. Quality is a very global concept, is a very wide concept, which essentially does require a coordinated effort between all different stakeholders involved in the development and construction and operation and management of the assets. Now, starting from the project development activities and down till the end of life dismissal of the solar farms. At the moment, the dismissal of a solar asset is something that most companies or most operators are not taking seriously into consideration, because there may not many assets are around the world which are at the end of their operational life cycle. But when it comes to dismissal, also the quality of the installation, the quality of the construction, the way you have built and managed the asset is important. So I think that this is to stress the point that quality assurance doesn't end with the end of the construction. I think that quality assurance, I will stress the point, does start when operation starts. Because if you start with a good engineering, a good procurement of the asset, a good installation of the component, and then you don't keep a good operations, a good maintenance program, and don't look to the asset by yourself, that's at the end of it, the quality assurance program. So those are life assets. The brain is the module, the heart are the inverters. So we need to ensure that both the inverters and the modules are always able to perform as they should, to make sure that we meet all stakeholder expectation, which in our business is essentially to meet investor returns expectations.
Okay. Yes, very valid points, Francesco. Thank you very much for that. Vinay, would you like to expand on this? Would you like to explain to us your point of views? Maybe you are muted as well, not sure.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
So it's better now. Yeah. So for asset optimization or asset management, in my opinion, one thing which is very, very important is the culture and vision of the company. We need to be visionary and look beyond today or tomorrow or beyond next month, next week, or next year, and have a vision for complete life cycle of the project. And for that, culture plays a very important role, because this is what we are going to pass on to all stakeholders in the project, including site in charge, to management people, to execution, to investment team. This has been passed on to the entire team. And culture should be in line with the vision of the company. And vision should be to maintain the plant as it is desired, or even better than that. Now, question is how we do it, how to achieve that. Do we want to maintain a project before breakdown, or we wanted to be a repair-oriented organization where our prime focus is to repair after breakdown of components. Should we act, should our action drive the performance of the project, or performance of the project drives our action? That means, are we taking care of our project to achieve desired performance, or just fixing it after failure? So the culture is proactive in nature, or the culture is reactive on an incident. So the ultimate goal would be to maintain project before failure. Because what we have seen in all our operational plant and running projects at different parts is that time, effort, and cost required to fix failure equipment is much, much higher compared to upfront corrective action to manage the project. And we have seen in coming years that machine learning, artificial intelligence, and data science is playing a vital role in predictive, preventive, and corrective maintenance of solar assets. And later in this part of webinar, we'll see all the tools and what the outcome of these tools to increase the value of the project, to get the true value of our assets. We'll come across on each tool. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Vinay. And that is also a very valid point and very important to consider. Right. Slightly different point of view now. Do you have any further comments, Jyoti, on this importance of asset optimization, please?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what other panelists said. What we have seen really in last 10 years or so globally, that a significant deployment happened, and solar landscape has drastically changed in that period of time. I mean, I remember my life 15 years ago. I used to be a joke. Solar in the UK, you must be joking. That was the code language was there. And what we have seen just from UK context, last 4 or 5 weeks or so, that solar has been one of the top 2 generator in the energy mix to national grid with zero coal. So that led down really a perspective that how much deployment happened. And also in Indian context, the cost generation of cost or building a solar farm has seen at record level, with significant capacity being added to the network. So in the past, world solar market really has been busy building solar projects. And it's only last 2 years or so, more of optimization to the existing assets gaining an increasing interest. And as I said, we are an advisor and we work with different asset owners, developers. And one common thinking that we see across the stakeholders list, that they're very highly active in asset optimization aspects, or some are getting very active into that particular space. Now, there are 2 aspects I'd really like to highlight. For all IPPs or developer or asset owner or asset investors, they are the one who is taking the weather risk effectively. What that means, that could be in the form of level of irradiance or extreme weather condition that we quite frequently see these days. Yes, some of it could be mitigated by different insurance coverage, different insurance backup. But again, the cost of insurance could well go up just to reflect the recent extreme weather conditions. And I think that's why all asset owners or developers or IPPs wants to or needs to create some kind of reserve account, if you like, from an additional revenue that they could unfold from their existing operational assets where they already have invested. So that's one aspect. Other side of this asset optimization importance is we talk about performance or underperformance. Now, in my point of view, these are all very much related terms depending on against what we are referring to. Most of the time that they are performance or underperformance referred to the contractual KPIs. That could be PR availability or generation warranty. And quite typically they are with an EPC or O&M contractor. Again, for the right reason, whether EPC contractor or O&M contractor, they do keep some kind of buffer in the KPIs when they design the system, the best design possible or best build possible. But again, just to mitigate their any potential LDs not to trigger, they do keep some kind of buffer in those KPIs. So what that means, there is an opportunity to unlock those areas for an asset owner or IPP or developer and get more revenue share. So optimization is probably one of the key topic in today's PV community.
Okay. Thank you, Jyoti. Very valid points. Creation of maintenance reserve accounts, MRAs, and review of your KPIs. Very interesting points as well. Right, let's move on. So we're going to talk about a bit more about the asset performance management of Greenencos. Essentially, this is a tool or a process which has been created to help asset owners, to help IPPs optimize their assets using artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, which is what Dr. Jyoti Roy is going to talk about now in more details. Jyoti?
Yeah, thank you. So as I said, there's an opportunity there, and a process like APM we developed in-house, or a similar process out there would be beneficial once someone really see that aspects much more granular, much more in details in terms of the health condition of the plant, so that one can define a strategy how best one can increase the value of their assets. If you go to the next one, please. So the objective of this particular process, and again, I'm stressing that this is effectively a process, not just a tool, process combination of tools, different steps, different strategy. And this particular process is objected to increase the efficiency of the overall system of a plant by doing very much granular equipment-based condition monitoring health check, which ultimately help the process of your business. We understand you have your internal process, decision-making process. So this particular APM process helps to enable to take a conclusive decision for your assets or for your strategy going forward. And the artificial intelligence algorithms, they are developed in-house based on our long-standing experience in this particular space. So if you go to the next one, please. So what I mean by a decision-making process, so the green box on the left-hand side and in the middle, this is a typical example of existing process that an asset owner or IPP generally follow. Again, this is just an example. You could have more steps in it, but effectively there's a contractual compliance that you check, any other warranty management, any financial risk or regulatory risk management that you do, that ultimately help and review to monitor progress of your business process, ultimately to design your maintenance strategy, corrective action, or any business plan optimization. But ultimate objective is to enhance production or revenue. Where we come into picture with this APM is a complete parallel system, not to influence your or disturb your existing process, but comes as a positive catalyst. So what that means? So we take data from your existing SCADA or remote monitoring system. Then we do different diagnostics analytics. And we got different algorithms for different stages, depending on availability of data. And also based on your O&M activity and any other a false history of the plant, we do a predictive analysis. And then ultimately what we do is prepare a list of gaps in the performance, and we rank them because that helps to prioritize the work activity. Also, what we can do with your team, that we can define some non-contractual KPIs, because quite typically contractual KPIs are availability, PR, or generation, particularly in India. Other KPIs can be defined in order to benchmark, to check your asset condition or asset performance at different stages. And then ultimately a prescriptive analytics, which is nothing but a custom-made remedial measure or corrective actions that you need to do to rectify those gaps is being identified in that particular plant while doing these diagnostics analytics. And that goes into your process so that you can take an informed decision. Next one, please. So how APM works on the left-hand side, so that's more on the customer's involvement, and on the right-hand side of the block is where Greenenco do this data analytics or manage that whole APM process. So what we need, effectively, most of your plant, they are having operational SCADA. So depending on the availability or depending on the SCADA configuration, we take electrical data of your DC side string level voltage current, or on the LV AC side and HV AC side, including meteorological data, effectively speaking, irradiance and temperature. And all these 4 sets of data should be at the same timestamps, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever the timestamps that you have. And ideally speaking, period of that data set, if it is 1 year, then a seasonal impact can be seen. But again, if any particular plant have less than 1 year data set, it still can work. Other set of information is needed, which is O&M report and inverter fault history, or could be your grid outage or level of curtailments are happening. So that helps in conjunction with the other electrical data above listed down. We can do a predictive analysis of the plant, even though some components are not failing, but looking into their degradation pattern or any a seasonal pattern, we can do a predictive analysis, again, which would help to do your decision-making process in terms of you need any corrective measures for those. Another information is needed about as-built, or depending on how do you define is as-built or actual build, which effectively the design configuration, theoretical design configuration, against which we can compare those measured value and what is the performance difference is being observed. And then goes through that cycle on the right, doing with data collection, processing, diagnostics, analytics, predictive analysis, failure statistics and ranking. We'll elaborate that particular failure statistics and ranking in the next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So these are very typical list of components listed down. This is just an example. It could be different to different plants. So as I said, after doing this gap analysis, we list down the failure statistics and we cluster them. And then we rank them depending on the generational losses happening so that we can prioritize that work. And next, when we do the prescriptive analysis, we look at what are the scopes are there in the existing contract that you may already have in place, whether that is an EPC contract, like EPC plus 2 years or 3 years workmanship warranty is in place, or is within the O&M contract phase. Reason being that what do we see? There are 2 things there, depending on from the asset owner's perspective or from the O&M perspective. Both are getting benefited. How? From asset owner's perspective, most of the corrective measures or prescriptive analytics that we said typically comes under within the scope of work of O&M contractor or EPC contractor. But also what that means there is no additional cost that an asset owner needs to inject, because they already have one O&M or EPC contract in place. But also from the O&M side, these days we see the size of the plant are increasing from European perspective, 20 megawatt, 50 megawatt, even more. But in the context in India, we are talking about 100, 200 megawatt plants there. And this process or this tool help an O&M contractor or O&M technician to identify exactly where and what fault is happening in the plant, so that you can effectively manage your resources and optimize your time, effectively money. So you'd be more efficient from O&M perspective, be there at site and do the corrective actions there that they need to do. For whatever the reason, if any of the scope is not comes under existing contract, or sometimes depending on the age of the plant, there is a increasing discussions happening about repowering. To do that, what would be the cost implication? We do a cost benefit analysis, so that again you can take a financial or commercial decision much more conclusively. Again, when it comes to repowering, there's a lot of aspects one need to really understand, whether it's repowering of just replacing the module or replacing inverter, or combination of different components, and how that impacts to the other component. For example, if you change the module of an old plant, and your mounting structure, or a module mounting structure typically called MMS in India, how that will fit, whether you need to do some kind of upgradation there as well, in order to fit with a different size or capacity of the panel they are available today. Plus also when you do the string configuration, again, whether or not they match well electrically with the inverter. So there's a lot of engineering design aspects comes into picture as well that we do. Next one, please. So this is the same thing, just to reflect into the time scale of events. So we mentioned that in the beginning, the data collection from your existing SCADA. So that starts, let's say, week 1. And then it takes about half a week or so, because depending on the availability of data or some data gaps, we need to do some data mining exercise in order to fill the data. There are different algorithms, different process that we follow in order to make it representative to this particular plant, to this particular location. And then we do these diagnostics analytics, and at different level, we have different, as I said, different algorithms for different level, whether a string level data are available, or combiner box level, or at the inverter level, or at the grid level, so that we can differentiate much more at the granular level, and not just looking into one particular problem. One particular problem could have if you just see from one angle, you may get incorrect assumption of your solution. So we need to really see one problem from different angle in order to really differentiate exactly where that particular problem is. So it's much more granular level activity that this process does. And then based on other data, meaning O&M report, or inverter fault history, or grid outage details, we do a predictive analysis. And then that's where at week 5, where we can discuss with the asset owner or developer that if there is a need, or there is a requirement for setting up some non-contractual KPI. That could be even cleaning cycle. That's another example, particularly in India, what we have seen in the past, and also in Middle East. And then that goes into very customized corrective measures. What do you say? A predictive analytics. And then it's a long process, depending on the availability of the O&M contractor team for that particular site, when they can mobilize team, when they can do the corrective actions. But what they would receive a full list of customized solutions, so that they can follow and implement those corrective actions. Now, after that, so it takes about 2.5 to 3 months. Again, this is just an indicative timeline. It depends on various factors, as you may imagine. And then after that remedial work is done, we again collect data. in order to demonstrate a similar exercise what we have done in the beginning and in the data analytical part, just to demonstrate how much generation improvement happened. If you see the whole process here, it's purely a desktop-based exercise. Only time, if needed, we can go at site. In fact, we prefer to go at site when the O&M contractor doing that activity at site, so that you as an asset owner or developer be in a peaceful mind that the full exercise is been executed as it should be. Now, one thing I'd like to highlight here, 3 weeks, if you look at the a timeline at 3 weeks, just before predictive analytics, this whole process is typically drawn for the portfolio level optimization. But we understand there's a lot of M&A activity are happening these days. And typically 4 to 5 weeks exclusivity period that you get. What we can do initial level of diagnostics analysis and gap finding exercise, so that and that can be done within 3 weeks of time. So that will give you a tool of negotiation commercially with the seller, that whether any plant health issue is there, so that technical terminology, you can convert that into a commercial negotiation. So the whole process can be split into M&A first part, or the full portfolio level optimization activity. And even though if you just go with the M&A activity and assuming you are successful going forward, if there is a distressed assets that you are buying, then obviously your objective would be to do the remedial action so that increase the asset value. Then at stage 2, if you like, follow the rest of the timeline event to increase the asset value. Next one, please. So these are some additional optimization scope that we do, and that involves a site visit, visual inspection at site, typical module health checks, whether a snail trail, PID, diode, hotspot, very typical issue I'm sure many of you are aware of. If you wanted to know more about these particular elements about snail trail PID, obviously that itself, it's a topic, you can go hours on that. Happy to answer any questions in future. Also, some other tests or periodic inspection, like based on IEC 62446. By the way, I have been part of that IEC 62446 co-written some of it, whether it's a module mounting structure check in relation to corrosion check or galvanization thickness check, and to cross-check the structural integrity of the project, even though project is whatever that age would be, whether 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, just to make sure that the stability and the thickness of the structure is there, will last for the lifetime of the project, 20, 25, or 30 odd years. Another aspect, obviously very useful tool, is infrared drone inspection. Again, there's a part 3 of 62446 is there, which effectively describe the environmental condition or the specification of the drone camera, and do the inspection at site. We work with some partners there, particularly in India and other areas. A company in Chennai, TechVavia, we work with them. So these are the additional scope that we can provide. Next one, please. This is just an example of some of the exercises that we have done in India. I mentioned about 300 megawatt portfolio, and there are different sizes, capacities, and different locations in India: 130 megawatt, 100 megawatt, 10 megawatt. And a level of generation increase that what we have observed in the range of 16%, 8%, 9% in those plants. This is just the delta or generation increment happened. Now, this particular process is independent of whether it's a string inverter system, whether it's tracker system, whether it is a different module technology, or a rooftop or ground mounted system. It is applicable to any size, any type of system, because there's a lot of customizations there, a lot of flexibility is there that we can blend that to the need of a particular client. Next one, please. And this is just to show that any of the activity that we are doing, it is based on a long-standing some industrial research activity. There are a couple of publications that, again, we can, if you're interested, we can share those articles that we have been doing with different stakeholders in the market. I supervise particularly the one journal on the left. I supervise one activity on impact of component reliability on a large utility scale projects. And this particular article covers about different fault analysis of different component, failure modes, or availability or failure rate, or any fault tree analysis. On the right, that's more on the excuse me, uncertainty analysis of energy yield assessment, and also the measurement uncertainty of Kippen-Zonen pyranometer, quite typically used in the PV field across the globe. Again, if anyone interested, we can send those articles over to you. But in an essence, what I'm trying to say, that any of this activity that we are doing on this APM, it is based on some industrial research that we are keep doing continuous basis. Next one, please. This is just a summary of lessons that we have learned in our past lives, and clustered them into different areas. Obviously, module is one of the key topics. As I said, if you wanted to discuss more in details about what kind of test or how do you assess the power loss due to a Snell trail or due to PID or diode issue, we can discuss that. Another category quite commonly seen in different geographics, which is the cable issue. One particular topic I'd like to highlight about cable sizing, what we have seen in the past, that when we are looking at a seasonal pattern of a particular site, and what we observed in some of the combiner box, it was a central inverter site. In some of the combiner box, some of the strings was underperforming during summertime when irradiance was high, whereas they were not underperforming during winter time, means when there was irradiance level is low. Then what we did, we did a cable sizing calculation by ourselves. And then what we observed, that those ones was underperforming during high irradiance days was undersized cable, nearly 50%. So that helped us to, purely looking into the seasonal pattern of the data, help us to identify a plant issue, just or some of the cables in that big plant. Another cluster would be connectors and fuses. Again, there are different quality measures. Some IEC standards are now published on different kind of connectors, compatibility of MC4 and MC4 compatible. That's a quite interesting topic. One other example I'd like to give here is Y connector, which is quite common in India. That 2 4 square mil cable coming into Y connector and then going out with 6 square mil cable. Again, what we have observed again by doing this diagnostics data analytics, that we identified that roughly 40 to 60% some of the strings was underperforming than expected. And then what we have done, we just with the handheld thermal camera, we did the IR inspection of those listed strings, and it was clearly visible that one side of the Y is not, or this temperature difference there. Then as soon as we replace those Y connectors, it was straightway suit up the generation to the expected level. So these are the few examples that I'm just sharing what we have observed. Inverter, again, very much a common, some of the aspects of IGBT failure, DC capacitor, AC filter. Cleaning particularly may not be as critical in European context, but in India, definitely yes. And again, this is another KPI could be set up there in order to determine the cleaning cycle. Not just because of the size, obviously a few sizes are really monster in relation to European size point of view. And a pyranometer is another observation that we have observed. It is not just the calibration check on year basis, but also there are some certain settings there, particularly one sensitivity check one need to check in order to make sure that the accuracy of pyranometers are there. Next one, please. I think that's all. Thank you very much for your attention to demonstrating this particular process that we have been working at.
Thank you very much, Jyoti. Very clear and very insightful presentation. We might have overrun a little bit, so I know that we have another 10 minutes. So I would like to ask each panelist a question related to optimization tools. So Vinay, if you don't mind answering this one to start with, what is interesting is that we have asset owners, so Acme from India and Bluefield from Europe, facing different challenges linked to the location of the assets. So my question to you is, how would the APM, the asset performance management tool that Jyoti just described, how would this be beneficial to your operational assets? Thank you.
Yeah, hi. So what we are seeing that most of the asset owners are still using traditional manual tools to monitor their data, and these manual tools are not having ability to handle large complex data, like tons of data which comes from solar projects. These manual tools are not sophisticated enough to handle, and the results which we are getting are not reliable, and we cannot make data-driven decisions. And as we all have also discussed, that in this era, there's a lot of competition coming in solar projects. Prices are going down, IRRs and returns are also becoming challenging. And all asset owners are now looking at each and every aspect of solar project development cycle and after asset management is how to improve the ROI of the project. And these sophisticated tools, in my opinion, can handle large, complex data, has a proper algorithm and scientific way to present it, and are more reliable and capable of doing things where asset owner can make decision more on data driven rather than just a historical way of pattern which is going on. So in that way, I see it a very comprehensive tool which can be useful for asset owners. For our own assets which we are monitoring and the projects which I've been involved earlier, there's various algorithms we have already used to monitor and see how the performance of asset can be improved. One of the prime factors where we have implemented this tool is forecasting of generation or weather for renewable energy. And as we all are aware that renewable energy is highly intermittent in nature. The value changes day to day, year on year basis. So it becomes very challenging for asset owners to predict the generation and CUF for the project. And to overcome it, there are various algorithms and machine learning tools. If some of in the audience are new in this, they can try random forest tool, which is very easy to implement, very reliable, can handle large data, and gives a good prediction of generation in long-term perspective for renewable energy projects. And why forecasting as such is very, very important for renewable energy project, because by having a reliable forecasting, we can penetrate more renewable energy into the grid and add more sustainability for the entire cycle. Further, by having better forecasting, we can make renewable energy projects more bankable and have better financing terms, where we see that, still the financing of renewable energy at many parts is challenging, and having a better forecast and view and vision of how much the plant is going to generate will give better financing terms for renewable energy asset owners. Further, what I see that this is an excellent tool, and they're tools which are there for automation and machine learning and data science, and these tools can further help us to improve the overall uptime of the project, identify component failure, like to maintain the components before it fails. Especially in solar project, how the degradation curve of module is, how the aging of module is happening is very, very important. If we can predict it before it fails, it gives a lot of value to an asset owner. One another aspect where we have seen these tools are very helpful is cleaning of modules, where historically we were seeing that, there was upfront analysis that we had to clean it in a month or in a year, but it was not data driven. There was no algorithms or no tools to define it. And we have seen that, these sophisticated tools helps a lot in cleaning cycles, predicting the cleaning cycles for the solar project. And to summarize, what I can say is that by these sophisticated tools, we can generate more power from the existing asset which we have better LCOE, less operation cost, and increase ROI of the project. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Vinay. Brilliant. Francesco, would you like to answer this similar question, but from a European point of view? Would that be helpful to you, to how beneficial would the tool that Jyoti presented to your operational assets? Quickly, please.
Yes, thanks, Roman. Yeah, I think that this is a very interesting approach to move towards more active management of assets. So it provides a very comprehensive assessment of the actual condition of sites as installed. So Jyoti mentioned that one crucial set of information is the actual build. So most of the time, the asset owner is not aware of what has been actually built. So even if there is an as-built document, maybe this is not a true representation or a correct representation of what is the installed situation at the site. So at the Brookfield, we, as I mentioned in my presentation, at the group presentation, we have launched a permanent capital vehicle. A permanent capital vehicle aim is to keep the investors in the investment they made long-term for the 20 years, which is the fund lifetime. So to make sure that investors are happy, we need to make sure that we are able to meet their expectations. And we meet their expectations by ensuring that we pay dividends annually, quarterly, actually, based on our policy, as expected. But this is a very challenging point because we need to ensure that we are able to meet investor expectation. We need to ensure that we are able to produce every kilowatt hours. We extract every kilowatt hours out of the plant because every kilowatt hours counts. So definitely this is a tool which will help in, as Vinay said, in increasing uptime and therefore reducing the LCOE. So if we keep an LCOE down, we are able to generate more revenues because we control generation on one side by raising the uptime with the conclusion and the results of this analysis, as well on the other hand by keep the cost down because we can anticipate the cost of repairing when it fails a component. We can keep the cost down, bring the LCOE down. I think that there is definitely a big step to move toward the more integration of machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence, because as Jyoti mentioned in his presentation, most asset owners are driven or are looking after their site with manual tools, and most of the time this is a very time-consuming exercise. So humans are meant to be more clever, smart tasks rather than repetitive tasks. Repetitive tasks are machine tasks. So as far as we can move more from human to machine and get the results of the machine analysis interpreted by humans, this is where we bring values into the management of the asset. So I think that again, this methodology is crucial to ensure that we can increase the confidence of investors that an investment will meet their expectations.
Can I just add, if you allow me, Romain?
Of course, Jyoti, please.
I mean, that's absolutely very valid point. Very generally speaking, I mean, not just in respect to what I presented here, but generally speaking, that no matter whether the investor is a short-term investor or is a long-term asset owner or asset investors, there's two aspects that one really need to understand when it comes to asset optimization. There are a lot of interesting tools are out there. We talk about big data, IoT, AI, machine learnings. But in my point of view, there are two aspects. One is a high touch and high tech. What I mean by high tech, this sophisticated IT tools, there are different algorithms are out there off the shelf that you can buy. But high touch is the domain expertise part comes into picture, and is the proper blend of this high touch, which is the domain expertise, with high tech, integrating different tools. That's where the real benefit is there. Otherwise, if you like, in a different way, you can buy a very expensive recipe book, but without a good chef. And obviously, I think we can imagine the taste of that food may not be as tasty as the cost of the recipe book. So it's a proper utilization factor of those tools. I think that's quite critical to make your operational capex of investment into this particular area, if you like. And as Francesco said, I believe that's any outperforming assets for an IPP or a developer or asset owner will attract more and more investment for them overall to grow the portfolio. And also not just that particular asset owner, but generally speaking to the market point of view, that gains investor confidence into investing into solar.
Very valid point, Jyoti. Thank you. Okay, so guys, this brings us to the last Q&A session of today's webinar. We have time for just one very quick question. This webinar is being recorded, and we will also share a link to the recording. We will also share the slides and the articles that Jyoti has presented. Of course, all unanswered questions which have been submitted will be answered also at a later stage. So to conclude, I would like to once again thank the 200 plus people who have joined us today. I would like to thank the panel for their participation. I would like to thank Greenomix for the great organization. And here we go, last questions, and then I will have to say goodbye to you all. So Jyoti, this question is for you. You mentioned that you have validated your APM in India, showing up to 16% generation gain. As such, do you expect similar improvement level for Europe?
If I'm perfectly honest, 10%, above 10%, that's really a good number. But looking into two different scenarios in Europe and in India, I think, realistically speaking, 10% probably more on the top side for European assets, but maybe somewhere in the range of 4 or 5%. But again, that depends on how old those plants are. If it is 10, 12 years old, and also there are some distressed assets are out there in Europe in different markets. So there might be a potential of up to 10% or so, but generally speaking, around in the range of on average 4 or 5%, probably a number that we are looking at.
Okay, lovely.
Okay, so that's goodbye from us. Thank you very much to you all for your attendance today.
Ashish, would you like to conclude the webinar, please? Ashish?
Yes. Thanks, Dr. Roman, for this wonderful moderation throughout the session. I think there are so many questions which is flying with you. You need to answer them all after that, after the program. Thank you, Dr. Jyoti, Francisco, and Binay for this wonderful session today with a lot of insights. And thank you, everybody, all the participants for joining us today. And in coming near future, we'll come up with similar interactive webinars for you. And we'll wind up now. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks all. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.